Supreme Commander Zillax stared at the impossible object in the human's hand. His personal combat medal, the one that had never left his possession in 47 years of service, the one physically quantum-locked to his genetic signature, the one she absolutely could not be holding. Excuse me? The human cadet, Emma Johnson, according to her file hastily pulled up on every screen in the command center, shifted her weight from foot to foot. Is someone going to tell me where I'm supposed to turn this in? The instructor said to bring it to command, but everyone just keeps staring at me. Zillax's secondary heart stopped. His primary heart seriously considered joining them. Get Director Vexthul in here now, he barked at his aide, who was frozen in place, mandibles hanging open. And someone run a full authentication scan on that medal. Third time. Sir, we've already, his aide started. Fourth time then. The Academy Command Center, normally a bastion of military precision spanning 3 levels and housing the Galactic Coalition's finest strategic minds, had devolved into barely controlled chaos. Junior officers scrambled between terminals. Senior analysts crowded around holographic displays, showing and re-showing the same security footage. And in the center of it all stood one small human female in a cadet uniform, holding an object that should not exist outside Zillax's personal quarters. Commander, Senior Analyst Gunnix's voice cracked across 3 octaves. The authentication is confirmed. Again. That medal is genuine. Quantum signature matches. Temporal displacement, 0. It was in your quarters 8 hours ago, and now it's in her hand, Zillax finished, his voice hollow. Someone explain to me how this is possible. I can explain, Emma offered helpfully. Instructor Kael'thas gave it to me after what? Director Vexthul materialized through the command center doors, his bioluminescent patches flaring panic yellow. Kael'thas hasn't given anyone anything except failure notices in 3 centuries. The trial of Ascension has a perfect record, perfectly unbeatable. Emma blinked. Wait, that was supposed to be hard. The command center went silent. Someone's datapad clattered to the floor. Hard? Zillax repeated slowly, dangerously. Cadet, do you understand what the trial of Ascension is? Do you have any concept of what you're claiming to have done? I mean, the instructor made it sound like a big deal, but Emma shrugged. Look, I just got here 3 weeks ago. I thought it was advanced training or something. Was I not supposed to do it yet? Because nobody told me there was a prerequisite class. Vexthul pulled up her file with shaking manipulators. She's barely through basic orientation. She hasn't even qualified in standard weapons yet. She has a mandatory meeting with the Language Integration Department tomorrow because she keeps using Earth idioms nobody understands. Okay, rude, Emma muttered. The idioms thing isn't my fault. How was I supposed to know piece of cake doesn't translate? The trial of Ascension, Gunnix said, his voice taking on the tone of someone explaining mortality to a child, has been administered to over 10,000 cadets across 300 years, warriors from 47 species, champions, veterans, prodigies with genetic modifications specifically designed for combat superiority. He paused. The success rate is 0%, not low. 0. No one has ever passed. Oh, Emma said. Then, wait, so, did I actually pass or? Zillax pulled up the security footage for the 15th time, even though he'd already memorized every impossible frame. There was Emma, entering the trial complex at 0600 hours. There was the combat zone initialization. There were the automated defenses engaging, the environmental hazards activating, the reality-warped corridors shifting into their impossible configurations. And there, 8 hours later, was Emma walking out, covered in dust, carrying his medal and asking a security officer where she could get breakfast, because apparently interdimensional combat trials made her hungry. Director, one of the analysts called out, Instructor Kael'thas is here. The legendary instructor entered the command center, and Zillax felt his world tilt further. Kael'thas looked rattled. In 50 years of service together, Zillax had seen him face fleet actions, planetary invasions, and political coups with perfect composure. Now he looked like he'd been struck by lightning and wasn't sure if he'd survived. "Sir," Kael'thas said quietly, "I need to file an official trial report." "You gave her your medal," Zilax said, still not quite believing the words. "Your personal achievement medal. The physical proof that you defeated me in sanctioned combat and earned your instructorship." "She earned it, Commander." "How?" Emma raised her hand like she was in a classroom. "Can I ask a question? If nobody's ever passed this test, why do you keep giving it? Seems like kind of a waste of everyone's time." "Because," Vexthul said, his patches flickering between confusion blue and anger red, "the trial isn't meant to be passed. It's meant to teach cadets their limits, to show them that some objectives are impossible regardless of skill, preparation, or determination. It's the most important lesson in galactic military doctrine." "Oh," Emma processed this. "Well, that seems like a depressing thing to teach people." "Cadet Johnson," Zilax said, pulling up her intake profile, "your listed previous occupation is wilderness survival instructor?" "Yeah, I taught high-risk outdoor courses back on Earth, teenagers mostly." "And you have no formal military training?" "Nope. I mean, I took the academy entrance exams like everyone else. Passed fine. Figured I'd learn the military stuff here." Zilax looked at Kael'thas. "She has no combat background, and she defeated the trial of Ascension." "She didn't defeat it, sir," Kael'thas said, and something in his voice made everyone lean forward. "She treated it like it was barely an inconvenience." "Show me the footage," Zilax ordered. "From the beginning, every sensor, every angle." The main holodisplay flickered to life, and the command center's chaos stilled. Everyone watched as Emma entered the trial complex 8 hours earlier, signing the standard waiver that detailed the non-lethal but extremely painful nature of what was about to happen. "Okay, standard disclaimer question," Gunix muttered, pulling up comparative data. "Let's see previous attempts for context." A split screen appeared. On the left, Champion Thorax of the Krill Dominion, 7 feet of bio-armored combat perfection, entered the same corridor Emma had walked through. The environmental systems activated, reality warped, gravity inverted. Thorax lasted 4 minutes before emergency extraction. On the right, Emma walked into the same corridor, looked up as gravity reversed, and adjusted her stance. Just shifted her weight. Kept walking on what was now the ceiling like it was a mild inconvenience. "She didn't even look surprised," Vexthul whispered. "I've had students fall out of trees," Emma's recorded voice came through the audio pickup. "This is definitely weirder, but at least there's no bees." The footage continued. The reality-warped maze activated, a shifting labyrinth that reconfigured based on the cadets' choices, designed by the galaxy's top combat psychologists to create maximum disorientation. Elite Operative Zelkor's attempt played in comparison. 32 minutes of increasing panic as the maze shifted, trapped him, and finally deposited him back at the start, trembling and defeated. Emma's attempt. She studied the walls for approximately 30 seconds, then pulled out her water bottle and started marking her path with drops of water. "That shouldn't work," Ginnick said. "The maze resets environmental factors every 45 seconds. They watched as Emma waited exactly 45 seconds, watched her watermarks disappear, then nodded to herself. "Right, so it's on a timer. That's actually easier." She proceeded to move through the maze at a jog, counting under her breath. Timing her movements to the reset cycle, she cleared it in 6 minutes. 17 Vexar battle psionics took that maze, an analyst said faintly. Combined intelligence quotient of 4,000. They surrendered after 2 hours. "The climb-proof wall," Kael'thas said, his voice tight. "Show them the wall." The hologram shifted. A 50-foot vertical surface, molecularly smoothed, coated with friction-null compounds. At the top, the next phase of the trial. Cadets were supposed to realize it was unclimbable and find the hidden teleport pad, a lesson in accepting alternative solutions when direct approaches failed. Fleet Admiral Corvan's attempt showed him trying for 90 minutes before conceding. A proud warrior, humbled by impossible physics. Emma looked at the wall, looked at her jacket, and took it off. She tied the arms together, looped it around a microscopic seam where two wall panels met, a seam that wasn't supposed to provide any purchase, and used it as an anchor point. Then she crimped her boots against the wall at an angle, using friction that shouldn't exist, and walked up it like a rock climber on a slight incline. "That's not possible," Vexthul said. "The wall is friction null," Ginix added. "Her boots have standard-issue soles," an analyst confirmed. On screen, Emma pulled herself over the top and paused to put her jacket back on. That was actually pretty fun. We had a wall kind of like this at the training center, but it had better handholds." The command center staff exchanged glances of mounting horror. "The sensor net," Kael'thas continued relentlessly. "Show them the sensor net." An invisible web of detection beams, overlapping, redundant, designed to tag any cadet attempting to cross the next chamber. Once tagged, you were eliminated, the trial's way of simulating death. Standard protocol was to study the pattern, find the gap, calculate the perfect path. Master Infiltrator Sixra's attempt. 4 hours of analysis, followed by a perfect execution that got her within 3 meters of the far door before a secondary net she'd missed caught her. Emma's attempt, she unscrewed her water bottle, threw the water into the air in an arc, and watched where the droplets got intercepted by laser fire. "Oh, it's a grid pattern," her recorded voice said. "And you guys left a gap right through the middle." She walked straight through, slightly hunched, following the path the water had shown her. "That was luck," someone protested weakly. "Show the combat drones," Silax ordered, his voice grim. The next chamber. 12 autonomous combat drones, military grade, programmed to use non-lethal but highly effective suppression tactics. They'd been designed to teach cadets that sometimes you were simply outgunned, outmaneuvered, and needed to retreat strategically. Warlord Kreth's attempt showed him lasting 90 seconds before the drones overwhelmed him with coordinated fire patterns. Emma's attempt showed her looking around the room, spotting a pile of maintenance debris in the corner, left there deliberately as environmental clutter, and picking up a handful of broken panel fragments. While the drones were still deploying, she threw them, not wildly, not randomly, with terrifying, casual precision. 12 throws, 12 drones. Each fragment struck a sensor node or joint. The drones didn't explode, they just stopped working, one after another, clattering to the ground like broken toys. "What?" Vexthul said. "And I cannot stress this enough." "What?" "I asked her about that," Kael'thas said. "She said, and I quote, 'I used to teach teenagers with really good aim how not to hit each other with rocks during hikes. You develop a sense for trajectory.'" "She disabled military combat drones," Ginix said slowly, "with rocks. Because she taught children not to throw rocks. The logic doesn't even make sense." Vexthul's patches were now solid crisis orange. The footage rolled on, showing impossibility after impossibility. Emma navigating the impossible maze by breaking through walls with a tire iron she'd picked up. If it's not a load-bearing wall, it's just a suggestion. Emma finding Kael'thas's hidden position in the final combat zone by, as she put it, following where things got too quiet because predators hide in quiet spots. And then the final confrontation. Emma versus Instructor Kael'thas himself, legendary warrior, in hand-to-hand combat. It lasted 23 seconds. "I still don't understand how she won," Kael'thas admitted, and for the first time in decades, he sounded uncertain. "My combat algorithms predicted every human fighting style in the database, but she didn't use any of them. She threw sand in my optical sensors, kicked me somewhere she shouldn't have known was vulnerable, and when I adapted my stance, she tripped me with her jacket." Again. "That's not martial arts," Vexthul protested. "No," Emma said cheerfully from her spot in the real command center. "That's called not getting your butt kicked. You guys kept calling it combat training, but you never said I had to fight fair. The trial is meant to be impossible, Ginix's voice cracked. Emma shrugged. I mean, impossible is a strong word. I thought this was like practice day or something. You know, to get us familiar with the equipment before the real training started. You guys seem pretty serious about it, though. Zilax felt something fundamental crack in his understanding of military doctrine. You thought this was practice? Well, yeah, I mean, it was challenging and all, but... Emma paused. Wait, are you telling me I was supposed to fail? Because that's honestly worse than making it impossible. At least, impossible means you're trying. She wasn't even trying her hardest, Kael'thas said quietly, and somehow that was the most terrifying thing said in the command center all day. When I asked her afterward if she'd given her all, she said, I mean, I didn't want to embarrass you in front of the cameras. The silence that followed was profound. Within 2 hours, the full Academy board had convened an emergency session, something that hadn't happened since the Vexar border incident 15 years ago. 14 species representatives filled the chamber, all staring at the same holographic replay that had broken their understanding of military training. Again, demanded board director Sinara, her crystalline form refracting stress-fractured light patterns. Show the wall climb again. For the 47th time, the footage played. Emma, 5'6" of human determination, turning a standard-issue jacket into a climbing tool that defeated molecular engineering. The friction null. Coding costs 40,000 credits per square meter, the Academy's chief engineer reported, his voice hollow. It's rated to resist gravitational forces up to 15 Gs. 3 separate species have patents on the molecular structure. It has never, in 20 years of operation, been defeated by physical contact. She wedged a jacket into a panel seam that's .003 millimeters wide, Vexthul added, his bio patches cycling through colors that didn't have names in any language. The seam isn't supposed to be visible to the naked eye. I have good eyes, Emma offered from her seat at the far end of the table, where she'd been placed like an unexploded ordnance everyone was afraid to get too close to. Also, the seam catches the light differently. Basic observation stuff. Grand Admiral Torval, whose species had designed the wall, made a sound like escaping hydraulics. Basic observation. She calls it basic observation. Move to the sensor net analysis, Sinara commanded. The hologram shifted. Combat Systems Specialist R. Hill materialized beside it, his mandibles clicking in distress. The detection grid is a Tier 7 security system. It's used to protect the council chambers. The pattern randomizes every 3 seconds, with overlapping redundancies specifically designed to eliminate predictable gaps. They watched Emma throw water into the air. She found the gap, R. Hill continued, in the .7 seconds it existed, using liquid trajectory analysis performed entirely in her head, and crossed the chamber before the randomization cycle completed. Or, Emma said, the water showed me where the lasers were, and I walked where they weren't. It's not like it was invisible, it literally shot the water. You guys lit up the safe path for me. The safe path existed for less than 1 second. Rahil's translator crackled with his distress. Right, so I walked fast. Board member Korvax pulled up the combat drone footage. These are military-grade autonomous defense units, 47 independent targeting systems, coordinated AI response patterns, adaptive learning protocols. They've been tested against elite guard units. She threw rocks at them, someone said faintly. Not just rocks, Korvax corrected miserably. She analyzed their deployment pattern, identified the exact moment when their sensor calibration was vulnerable during initialization, and threw improvised projectiles with ballistic precision that our own tactical computers calculate as having a .001% probability of success. Per throw. She made 12 throws. Each one successful. That's statistically impossible, yes, we've established that's the theme today. Emma raised her hand. Can I say something? You guys keep saying I did all this analyzing and calculating stuff, but I really didn't. I just threw stuff at the shiny bits that looked important. Worked on the water heater when it broke down back home. Figured it'd work. On flying robots, too. The silence was the sound of military doctrine dying. The maze, Director Sinara said, her voice taking on a desperate quality. Explain the maze to me again. Combat psychologist Lirana stepped forward, her sensory tendrils drooping. The maze uses adaptive architecture based on psychological warfare principles developed over 600 years. It reads the cadets' stress responses, fear patterns, and decision-making processes to create maximum mental pressure. The walls are reinforced durasteel, 40 centimeters thick. She broke through them, Zilax stated. She broke through them, Lirana confirmed. With a tire iron that she found. In a maintenance closet that wasn't supposed to be accessible from within the trial. Wait, I wasn't supposed to find that? Emma asked. The door was unlocked. It was locked with a biometric seal keyed to maintenance personnel only. Oh, Emma paused. It opened when I pushed it, though. 3 analysts immediately pulled up security logs. After a moment, one spoke. The door was scheduled for maintenance. The lock was temporarily disabled in the system for 30 seconds while the maintenance team arrived. She pushed it during that exact 30-second window. Lucky timing, Emma said. You navigated an impossible maze, broke into a maintenance closet during a 30-second window, armed yourself with equipment, and broke through 40-centimeter durasteel walls. Vexithul's voice reached volumes that made translation implants feedback. That's not luck. I mean, the walls weren't load-bearing, Emma said reasonably. You could tell from the echo they made when I knocked on them, and the tire iron was right there. What was I supposed to do? Ignore it? Grand Admiral Torval pulled up the final confrontation footage. Instructor Kael'thas, explain to this board how you, personally trained by Supreme Commander Zilax himself, holder of 7 galactic combat championships, were defeated in 23 seconds by a wilderness survival instructor. Kael'thas stood at attention, and there was something in his posture that looked almost like respect mixed with existential confusion. She used tactics that don't exist in any combat database across 47 species. Sand in the optical sensors, we train for vision impairment, but not for manual debris interference. A strike to a vulnerability that she shouldn't have known existed. Our species' anatomy isn't in standard cadet briefings. And when I adapted to compensate, she used her jacket as a tripping hazard. Her jacket, Sinara repeated. The same jacket she used to climb the impossible wall, Ginix added helpfully. That jacket should be in the military museum at this point, someone muttered. Cadet Johnson, Kael'thas continued, and his voice carried a weight that made everyone listen. These tactics aren't in any combat database because they're not combat tactics, they're survival tactics. She wasn't trying to defeat me honorably, she was trying not to lose. There's a difference. I was just doing what made sense, Emma said, clearly bewildered by the attention. You were bigger, stronger, and better trained. So I didn't fight you fair, I fought you smart. But the honor protocols, someone started. She never agreed to honor protocols, Kael'thas interrupted. She was never trained in them. She approached combat as a survival instructor, not a warrior. And in doing so, she demonstrated something we've forgotten in 3 centuries of standardized training. Which is, Zilax asked quietly, that combat isn't about honor, it's about going home alive. Kael'thas reached into his uniform and pulled out an identical medal to the one Emma held. I awarded her my personal achievement medal because, by every military standard that actually matters, she earned it. She completed an objective we designed to be impossible. She defeated an opponent we designed to be unbeatable, and she did it using skills we never thought to teach. There's no protocol for this, Ginix said, frantically searching databases. No regulation, no precedent, no procedure. In 300 years, we've never had to process a passing result for the trial of ascension. So I passed? Emma asked. Because if I did, can I go to lunch? I signed up for the cafeteria's Taco Tuesday thing, and I really don't want to miss that. Multiple board members stared at her. The entire galactic military training doctrine is collapsing, Vexthul said faintly, and she wants tacos. I mean, they're not great tacos, Emma admitted. The meat's weird, but I'm hungry, and you guys have been talking for like 3 hours, so... Supreme Commander Zylax looked at the medal in Emma's hand, then at Kael'thas, then at the 14 board members whose expressions ranged from shock to existential dread. We need, he said slowly, to completely reassess what we think we know about human combat capability. Can I do that after lunch? Emma asked hopefully. After the board recessed, primarily because half the members needed time to process their species' military inadequacy, Zylax requested a private interview with Emma, just the two of them, in his office, with recording equipment running for what he suspected would become required viewing at every military academy in the galaxy. Cadet Johnson, he began, then paused. Actually, may I ask what you did before joining the academy? Sure. Emma settled into the chair across from his desk, looking far too comfortable for someone who'd just invalidated 3 centuries of military doctrine. I ran wilderness survival courses back on Earth. High-risk stuff mostly. Rock climbing, whitewater navigation, winter camping. I specialized in teaching teenagers, which is basically its own extreme sport. Teaching children, Zylax repeated slowly. Teenagers, Emma corrected, which is worse, honestly. At least kids listen when you tell them not to do something. Stupid. Teenagers do the stupid thing specifically because you told them not to, she grinned. You learn to think 5 steps ahead when you're trying to keep 18-year-olds alive in the wilderness. Something clicked in Zylax's mind. The trial of ascension. You treated it like a safety training exercise. Well, yeah, that's what it was, right? Dangerous environment, unknown threats, limited resources. Same principles as teaching someone to survive a night in the mountains. Emma leaned forward. You identify the hazards, assess the resources available, make a plan that keeps you alive. The walls, the maze, the drones, they were just different kinds of hazards. But the combat, Zylax pressed. Fighting Instructor Kael'thas, that wasn't survival training. Sure it was. Predator avoidance and deterrence. Emma shrugged. We had a unit on what to do if you encounter a bear or mountain lion. Rule 1, don't fight fair. Rule 2, use everything available. Rule 3, the goal isn't to win, it's to not die. Kael'thas was just a really advanced predator scenario. Zylax felt something fundamental shift in his understanding. You're saying humans don't separate combat training from survival training. How would we? Emma looked genuinely confused. I mean, combat is survival. Whether you're fighting another person, the environment, or a broken water heater, the principle's the same. Identify the problem, use what you have, don't die. Why would we treat them differently? Because, Zylax said slowly, most species develop combat doctrine based on honor, tradition, and formal engagement protocols. We separated warfare from survival millennia ago. Huh, Emma processed this. That seems like a really bad idea. Explain Earth's military history to me. Oh boy, Emma laughed, but it wasn't entirely humor. Okay, so humans have been fighting each other for basically all of recorded history. Different tribes, different nations, different ideologies. We've had thousands of years of continuous warfare. And because we were fighting other humans who think like us and adapt like us, we had to get creative. Honor codes lasted about 5 minutes when someone figured out ambushes worked better. Formal engagement protocols got replaced by guerrilla tactics. We evolved combat through necessity. Thousands of years, Zylax repeated, of fighting your own species. Yeah, we got pretty good at it. Emma's expression turned serious. Look, I'm not saying it's a good thing. War is terrible. but it means that when I look at your impossible trial, I'm looking at it through the lens of a species that's been surviving impossible situations forever. Your ultimate test is basically Tuesday afternoon at human boot camp. The recording equipment captured Zilax's expression perfectly. The exact moment a Supreme Commander realized his ultimate training trial was considered routine by an entire species. "Commander," Kael'thas appeared at the door. "May I speak?" "Please." The instructor entered, standing at parade rest. "I've been reviewing Cadet Johnson's approach, and I need to formally revise my assessment. I didn't lose to inferior tactics. I lost because I was operating within a framework she wasn't bound by. Honor, protocol, tradition, she was operating within survival imperative which supersedes all of those." "You're not upset about losing?" Emma asked. "Upset?" Kael'thas's expression was difficult to read, but his voice carried something like wonder. "Cadet, you taught me more about practical combat in 23 seconds than I've learned in 50 years of formal training. I'm humbled, not insulted." "Oh," Emma brightened. "That's actually really cool of you." A chime indicated an incoming communication. Zilax opened it to find a visual feed of the Academy's main training yard, where apparently word had spread. Hundreds of alien cadets had gathered, and the mixture of expressions ranged from awe to outright fear. "They're calling her the Trial Breaker," Vexthul's voice came through. "Also, the Impossible Human, Kael'thas's Conqueror, and, I'm not translating this one correctly, something about the tiny terror who broke 300 years with a jacket." Emma groaned. "Oh no, I'm going to have a nickname." "You defeated the undefeatable trial," Ginix added, appearing on a split screen. "You're going to have several nicknames. Also, we have a problem. Technically, passing the trial of Ascension qualifies you for immediate graduation with honors, but you've only been here 3 weeks. "Wait, what?" Emma sat up straight. No. I came here to actually learn this stuff properly. I need the full training, the certifications, everything. I'm trying to get qualified for the Outer Rim survey positions. They require academy completion, not just graduation." "You pass the trial that's supposed to prove completion is impossible," Vexthul pointed out. "But I don't know anything yet. I can't even read half your languages. I failed the hovercraft operation test because I thought the accelerator was the brake. I almost poisoned myself in the cafeteria because I didn't know Tygon protein causes allergic reactions in humans." Emma's voice rose. "I'm not ready to graduate. Can I just finish the regular course? Please?" Zilax exchanged glances with Kael'thas. The instructor spoke first. "She's right. She has raw capability but no formal training. She's dangerous specifically because she's untrained. She doesn't know what's supposed to be impossible. So we have a cadet who's technically qualified to graduate but desperately needs basic training." Sinara's voice joined the communication. "Wonderful. The board is going to love this." "New training track," Zilax decided. "Human-specific protocols. We clearly can't evaluate Cadet Johnson or any future human cadets using standard metrics. Kael'thas, you're designing it." "Me?" The instructor looked startled. "You lost too. Her. That makes you the expert on human combat capability." Zilax turned to Emma. "You'll continue standard courses but with modified evaluation criteria. No more impossible tests until we figure out what impossible means to a human." "Great," Emma said with deep sarcasm. "More paperwork, my favorite." "You broke our entire military education system," Vexthul said dryly. "Paperwork is the least of what you've earned." "Can the paperwork wait until after Taco Tuesday?" Zilax looked at this human, this small, unassuming wilderness survival instructor who'd casually demolished 3 centuries of military certainty, and made a decision that would change galactic combat doctrine forever. "Cadet Johnson, go get your tacos. Report to Kael'thas tomorrow at 800 for your new training assessment." "Thank you." Emma stood, then paused. "Hey, can I keep the medal? It's actually pretty cool." "You earned it," Kael'thas said firmly. By every standard that matters. As Emma left, Zilax turned to the communication screens showing various board members and academy officials. Gentlemen, ladies, and honored others, he said quietly. I believe we've just discovered why humanity qualified for academy admission despite having no space combat history. They've been training for this their entire existence. They just didn't know it. Terrifying, someone whispered. Absolutely, Zilax agreed. Now imagine 100 more like her. The academy-wide policy changes rolled out within 72 hours, a bureaucratic speed record that spoke to how thoroughly Emma had shattered the status quo. Official Directive 4471H, nicknamed the Human Training Protocol Override, landed on every instructor's desk with the weight of institutional revolution. Standard evaluation metrics suspended for human cadets, impossible trials, indefinitely postponed pending review, combat assessments redesigned from the ground up. We're basically throwing out 600 years of standardized testing, Vexthul muttered, reviewing the new protocols. 600 years that didn't account for a species that treats survival and combat as the same thing, Zilax countered. He was 3 days into what would become a months-long restructuring, and he'd stopped being surprised when human cadets casually accomplished supposedly impossible tasks. Yesterday, a human engineering student had fixed a broken quantum drive by, quote, percussive maintenance, hitting it with a wrench. It worked. The engineering department was still in crisis. Kael'thas formally requested transfer to the newly created Human Combat Studies Division within a week. I've spent 50 years perfecting techniques, he explained to Zilax, that humans bypass with common sense and improvisation. I need to understand how they think before we face them in actual combat. We're allies, Zilax reminded him, for now. Kael'thas's expression was serious. But I've reviewed Earth's history, Commander. They've been
fighting themselves for millennia, with creativity, with adaptation, with a terrifying willingness to ignore every rule of engagement we consider sacred. He paused. If humans ever become our enemies, we need to know how to counter them, because honor and protocol won't do it. Emma, meanwhile, had somehow become an unofficial consultant while still technically a cadet. She sat in on instructor meetings, offering observations that ranged from helpful, maybe label the toxic food in the cafeteria, to disturbing, your security checkpoints are really easy to bypass if you just act confident. Currently, she was in Training Complex 7, watching Senior Instructor R. Hill demonstrate the Academy's new Advanced Infiltration course. So this is supposed to teach stealth and patience, R. Hill explained nervously. The last time he'd shown Emma a course design, she'd pointed out 14 obvious shortcuts, 3 safety hazards, and 1 accidental route that led directly to the instructor's observation room. Right, Emma said, studying the laser grid pattern. Question, why do you make the gaps in the detection field regular? You're basically giving us a pattern to memorize. Rahil's mandibles clicked in distress. The pattern is randomized. It randomizes every 3 seconds, which means cadets can just count and time their movement, Emma pointed. Also, you've got a blind spot where those 2 sensors overlap. The geometry creates a gap about, she squinted, 40 centimeters wide? Rahil checked his instruments, made a sound like escaping steam. How did you see that from here? I mean, it's right there, Emma shrugged. Maybe don't make it so obviously a trap. Like if I was designing this, I'd make the gaps look accidental. Make them irregular, unpredictable. Give cadets the illusion of finding an exploit when really you're controlling their path the whole time. Rahil paused. That's actually brilliant and deeply manipulative. I taught teenagers, Emma reminded him. Same principle. Galactic Military Command received their official report that evening. Zilax's summary was succinct. Human combat doctrine operates on fundamentally different principles than Alliance standard. Recommend immediate comprehensive study of Earth military history and survival training practices.
Preliminary assessment suggests humans have been conducting continuous species-level warfare for approximately 10,000 years. This has created a population with baseline combat capability exceeding our elite forces. The response came back within hours. Explain baseline. Zilax's reply. Their wilderness survival instructors defeat our ultimate training trials. We haven't tested their actual soldiers yet. The silence that followed was galaxies wide. 3 weeks later, Emma found herself in the Academy Museum, staring at a new exhibit. There, mounted in a crystal case with full atmospheric preservation, was Kael'thas's medal. The plaque read, First Human Graduate, Emma Johnson, Trial of Ascension Completion, Year 3247. First cadet in 300 years to pass the impossible trial. Achievement unlocked through practical survival skills, creative problem-solving, and treating a jacket as a multi-purpose tool. Note, she thought it was practice day. They put the jacket thing in the official record, Emma complained to Vex Thule, who'd accompanied her. That jacket defeated molecular engineering and became a combat weapon, Vex Thule replied. It deserves historical recognition. I still have trouble with advanced mathematics, Emma pointed out. I failed last week's quiz on quantum probability because I couldn't remember the formulas, but sure, let's put up a museum exhibit about my jacket. You defeated 300-year-old military doctrine but struggle with math, Vex Thule said. Somehow, that's the most human thing about this entire situation. Emma's communicator chimed, a message from the cafeteria. She groaned. They're serving that weird purple stuff again. I swear you guys have faster-than-light travel but cafeteria food that tastes like sadness. What will you try next? Vex Thule asked, genuinely curious and slightly afraid. Emma grinned. Well, I heard there's this advanced zero-gravity combat course that's supposed to be really challenging. Thought I'd check it out this weekend. Emma, no. Emma, yes. She headed toward the exit, then called back over her shoulder. Don't worry, I'll bring a jacket. Vex Thule watched her go, then immediately sent a priority message to the zero-gravity combat instructor. Lock down all maintenance closets. Hide all tire irons. Pray. That evening, Supreme Commander Zilax recorded his personal log, a tradition he'd maintained for 47 years. Day 23 of the Human Integration Assessment. Cadet Emma Johnson continues to be simultaneously our most capable and most concerning cadet. She failed her xenobiology exam this morning, confused 3 different species anatomies. This afternoon, she redesigned our advanced infiltration course and somehow made it more effective and more terrifying. The contradiction is the point I'm realizing. Humans aren't exceptional at everything. They're exceptional at survival, at adapting, improvising, and treating every problem as just another obstacle between them and lunch. Their impossible is our routine. Our impossible is their Tuesday. We designed the trial of ascension to teach cadets their limits. Emma taught us that limits are a matter of perspective, and species perspective apparently varies more than we thought. The terrifying part isn't that she passed the impossible trial. It's how normal it was for her, how casual, how utterly, completely mundane she found the whole thing. I've reviewed Earth's history now, the wars, the survival challenges, the continuous adaptation, and I understand something that should probably concern the entire Galactic Alliance. We didn't recruit humanity's best warriors. We recruited their wilderness survival instructors, their teachers, their civilians. We haven't seen what humanity can really do yet. That should terrify us. Instead, I'm just grateful they're on our side. End log. The museum exhibit remained, a permanent reminder of the day a human cadet walked into the impossible trial and walked out asking about tacos. Thousands of cadets would visit it over the years, from dozens of species, all wondering the same thing. If that's what their teachers can do, what can their soldiers accomplish? Nobody wanted to find out, but Emma Johnson, wilderness survival instructor turned trial breaker, was just getting started. And somewhere in the academy cafeteria, she was complaining about the purple stuff and planning her next practice day. The galaxy would never be the same,